Last week, The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered dropped out of nowhere, and as somebody that never played it as a kid, I was super excited to try it out. So I bought it, spent 8 hours installing it because the game is massive, and then I launched it. And it looked like this. I was distraught. There hadn't been a new game out in forever that piqued my interest like this, so I thought I was done for. I laid down in my bed for the night and pulled up YouTube, as you do, and a video caught my eye. It was an IGN review for a game I had not heard anything about, and I'm pretty well informed when it comes to new games releasing. I clicked the video, watched the first few minutes, and instantly knew that I wanted to buy and play this entire game. I didn't even get to the part in the IGN review where they gave the game a score. That's how quickly I knew this was a game I'd love, and after playing it, I realized it got really good scores, like Game of the Year level scores across the board. So, the next morning, I woke up early and hopped on the game. Expedition 33, thinking it would just be a fun little way to pass the time. It then turned into me not being able to put the game down for a single moment over the next week and playing 60 hours, grinding to get every single achievement. Also, a little side note. It looks like I got crazy eye bags right now. I'm not sleep deprived from playing the game, I promise you. My allergies are really bad right now, and I'm clawing at my eyes. I don't know if anyone else is dealing with this, but I'm not exhausted, I promise. My eyes are just puffy because of allergies, so bear with me. A little warning before we start. If you haven't played this game and you're just clicking on the video because you're curious about it, if this game piques your interest in any way, shape, or form, please go play it before you watch the video. If you don't want to get any spoilers, do not watch this video. A lot of the achievements are linked to the story, so I will obviously have to talk about the story throughout the entire game. So, I'll spoil one of the best stories that I've ever played in a video game. So, if you're interested at all, please go play the game before you watch the video. I promise you, it is an amazing experience. So, for the people out there that are curious about my skills, I did play the game on Expeditioner. I saw that you could change it whenever, and it wasn't tied to any achievements, so I planned to switch it to the highest difficulty if the game felt too easy. And after playing and finishing the game, it did not feel too easy. I was getting touched by some of these enemies. I can't even imagine how hard expert mode is, so I booted up the game on normal difficulty. We're shown a town called Lumiere, where things aren't great. 64 years or so, there was an event called the Fracture. Nobody knows how it happened or why it happened. Ever since, a monolith has been on the skyline with someone named the Paintress painting down from 100 once every year. The number decreases each year, and when it changes, everyone of that age dies. Every year, a group of expeditioners head to the continent, towards the monolith, to stop the Paintress, but every single expedition has ended in critical failure. The prologue does an incredible job of introducing this idea of everyone having limited time, knowing the exact date that they'll die, and it gives them a different outlook on life. We meet our main character, Gustav, and a young girl named Maëlle. Maëlle is giving Gustav a pep talk. He wants to give a flower to an old love of his, a woman who is going to die today. This is the day the Paintress switches the number, and the people of Lumiere call this day the Gommage. They head to find this woman, and I get a little tutorial. These grappling points can be used to traverse across rooftops. On one of those rooftops, the two have a duel, doubling as a combat tutorial. And the combat of this game, holy incredible. It's turn-based, which can turn a lot of people off because it feels like a slog, but it's active turn-based. You've got your classic AP used to activate skills, and each character has a specific attribute that correlates to their battling. For Gustav, it's a mechanical arm that he can charge up with attacking, parrying, or dodging, and then unleash for a super powerful attack. Now, the attacking, parrying, and dodging is where the live combat comes in. You have to press the spacebar at the right time to increase the power of your attacks, and when an attack is coming at you, you've got two options. Dodge with an increased window to avoid the attack, or parry with a much tighter window. The advantage of parrying is that you get additional AP for each successful parry, and if you parry every attack in a combo, you counterattack. So it's very high risk, high reward. With the combat figured out, I headed down to meet Sophie. Her and Gustav have kind of a tortured love that didn't work out kind of vibe, and with the two now together, I explored Lumiere a bit. There's actually an achievement here where you've got to fight a mime, but I somehow missed it and had to go back and get it in New Game Plus, so I'll just insert it here. After running around and meeting some of the characters, a very important one named Lune, playing the guitar for a crowd of onlookers, Sophie then handed over a uniform, one she tailored for Gustav. We learned that he's actually one of the people embarking on the expedition this year, with the goal to take down the Paintress. The two share a very depressing moment together as we see the Paintress alter the number in the sky, people bursting into clouds of rose petals. We see Sophie, who had claimed that she was prepared to die, start crying. The inevitability and fear of death so sudden catches up to her, and Gustav comforts her as she also bursts into a cloud of rose petals. This is the world they live in, where nobody has control over their own fate. These expeditioners risk their lives to figure out why the Paintress paints the number and why it always goes down by 1. Their ultimate goal is to stop her from painting any more numbers and save anybody else from going through the gommage. Later that night, we're introduced to the gang of expeditioners embarking on their journey tomorrow, and I ran around talking to them all until I received an old key, something I wouldn't be able to use for hours and hours, but it would come in handy later for a collectible. We also meet Emma, Gustav's sister, and she gives a rallying speech as we see the 33rd expedition depart across the ocean towards the monolith. This grants an achievement. They make landfall, all disembarking onto a rocky beach. As they take in their surroundings, we hear a tapping, reverberating through the ground. A man is approaching, cane in hand. The strange thing is, he has gray hair. This man is old. He somehow survived the gommage. As someone questions this, the old man just decapitates him. This beach turns into a slaughterhouse, shit blowing up, creatures grabbing people, and as we watch this entire squad die damn near instantly, Gustav gets hit point blank with basically a nuclear bomb. Somehow, against all odds, he lived, but there's nobody left. As I explored this new landscape, I received chroma elixirs, basically a party heal potion that could be used and then replenished at checkpoints called expedition flags. A little farther down the path, and Gustav encounters his first enemy, called a Nevron, an all-encompassing term for the creatures on this island. This is where it's revealed that you can pull out a gun, using something called free aim. By doing this, you can use 1 AP for a shot that can destroy enemies' weak points. After destroying it, the path leads down into a cave, where massive piles of expeditioner bodies are laid out. Here, Gustav sees some more of his partners from his expedition, dead on the ground, and collapses next to their bodies. He realizes he stands no chance, and pulls out his gun, prepared to end his life. But he's stopped by Lune, the woman who was playing the guitar in Lumiere. She also survived the beach, and we now have a new team member who convinces Gustav to continue on. Lune's combat revolves around elemental stains. By using a skill, she generates stains of different elements, which can then be consumed by using other skills to boost their power. With 2 people in the party now, I also unlocked the ability to party counter. Some enemies attack everyone at once, and by parrying, the entire squad counterattacks. After taking down another Nevron, I also unlocked the character skill menu, where you can equip Luminas. It's kind of complicated to explain, but they're basically stat buffs that do things like increase critical chance, or make you attack twice, or go 2 times in a row. Only one person can equip a specific Lumina at once, but if you win 4 battles with that Lumina equipped, it turns into a Pictos, and you can then use Lumina points to give the stat boost of the Pictos to as many of your teammates as you want. Basically, win 4 battles with this perk equipped, and then it becomes a global perk that you can use points to equip to any of the characters, if that makes sense. It's pretty cool. After finding an expedition flag, I received the ability to upgrade character stats as well. There's also a skill tree for each character, obviously. After cooking through some more enemies, I found my first boss. This motherfucker was destroying my team, and it took me an embarrassing amount of time to finally take it down. I had to really figure out the parry and dodge aspects of combat, but I got a really good attack boosting Pictos for my hard work. After exploring some more, the squad encountered a Nevron, but it wasn't attacking. Next to it was an expedition journal, number 81, a log of previous expeditioners' journeys. Collecting all of these is an achievement as well, which I'll get way down the line. The Nevron, who was named Jar, was actually friendly and asked for light. I found some resin to light his lamp down the path, and after doing so, I received an upgrade to my healing tint. This is another great aspect of the game. When you're in battle, you can use heals, revives, and AP boosters. These aren't items you have to hunt for around the map. Instead, you have a certain amount of each one that recharges every time you rest at a flag. God bless them for doing this, because it removes the hindrance of having to hunt down healing items or AP boost items before every single boss fight. It's an amazing mechanic. This upgrade that I got let me hold more heals. My team then arrived at a checkpoint where we watched another survivor get fucking impaled, and then another boss battle began. This one actually wasn't too bad, and afterwards the squad finds a message written on a nearby tree. It says, "They took Mael to the weird corals," and tells my group to go north and find a hut. The weird thing is, this message wasn't signed, and the rule for every expeditioner is to sign their messages. Lune is convinced it's a trap, but Gustav wants to find Mael, since we now know that she's an orphan and Gustav is basically her caretaker. The two argue, but Lune finally agrees to accompany Gustav on his search. As they leave this area, my squad is teleported to the overworld, a fully traversable large-scale map of the entire area the game encompasses. It's even got collectibles and enemies out here, and I think it's a great way to portray the game's size without making traversing take hours, and that way you don't just rely on fast traveling. There's two achievements I got out here. One is done by breaking an enemy, which is basically filling up their stun meter and then hitting them with a heavy attack. The other is doing this with a full blast overcharge from Gustav's arm. From the overworld, I unlocked the ability to head to camp, a safe area that can later on be used to upgrade weapons and abilities and stuff. Now, it's time for the next area, Flying Waters. This location contains the first paint cage. There's loot trapped inside, and you've got to shoot the 3 locks located in the surrounding area. By doing this, I received the loot and a new achievement. Through Flying Waters, I eventually found the hut that the note had told me to look for, which had a mysterious door inside. As my group entered, someone could be seen watching them from afar. We won't know who this is for a while, but for now, the door leads the gang to a new location, the manor. Its architecture is completely out of place in this underwater area, and all the doors inside are locked, except for one. Inside, we find Mael looking at another expedition journal. She apparently woke up inside the mansion and found this weird, faceless flying statue man who she shares has the ability to reinforce her gear. With Mael now in the squad, the faceless man, whose name is the Curator, heads down to the front door where he challenges us to a friendly battle. This reveals a new attack that enemies can output. If they're marked with this glowing symbol, a jump flare, they can't be parried or dodged and instead need to be jumped over. This is where I'll add that I played the entire game on mouse and keyboard, which was a mistake. The mouse is visible during battle to allow you to click on different abilities and stuff around the screen. When you jump over an attack, you can use the left click on the mouse to counterattack. The issue is, when the mouse is visible, it doesn't read the clicking input correctly. I didn't figure it out until way later, but you basically have to not move your mouse at all and just click from the top, aim your finger straight down without moving the mouse at all. Until I figured that out, I would basically just spam click really fast, and it worked 75% of the time. After winning my battle against the Curator, the group exits the mansion and a new friend appears, a small creature, a Gestrel named Noko. He speaks in French, but shares a new location goal, the Gestrel Sanctuary, in the middle of red trees on the overworld. We then meet our first Gestrel merchant. These guys are placed all around the map and sell a variety of different goods. To unlock their special shop items, you have to fight each Gestrel merchant in a one-on-one battle and win for the rest of their wares to be displayed. This guy's special item was a new Pictos. I headed onwards and encountered another friendly Nevron. This one wanted a mine, and after finding one nearby and handing it over, I received a new weapon for Lune. Farther down the path was the journal for Expedition 68, and I encountered the boss of this area, which got enraged when Gustav touched a flower. Goblu wasn't too hard, but this is where I got to learn about Mael's combat skills. Her fighting revolves around different stances, which are entered by using different skills. Each stance has a buff. Offensive makes you deal more damage, but also take more. Defensive is the opposite, and Virtuous stance triples all damage output. By utilizing these, they can also increase the effectiveness of different skills. She's really fun. Defeating Goblu put me into a cutscene where the characters begin to realize that this enemy isn't actually hostile. It just wants to protect its flower field. Gustav doesn't trust it and shoots at it to scare it off, and Mael states that it feels familiar somehow. With that, the gang leaves the area and a new achievement is granted. A new title card plays, Mael's Nightmare. It's a rapid-fire onslaught of different scenes, a fire raging while a mysterious man watches Mael, her holding the armband of an expedition member and screaming in front of the paintress. We have no clue what this means yet, but Mael can't sleep because of it, so she and Gustav throw some rocks. He makes her promise that if they encounter the old man from the beach again, she'll run away, and he agrees to do the same. Now, at the camp, we see the curator has posted up. From here, I can now upgrade weapons using materials and use Lumina points to increase the amount of Luminas a character can have equipped. By doing both of these, I received 2 new achievements. At the fireplace in the camp, I chose to check up on the others, which gives an optional cutscene of the gang just chatting for another achievement. Back at the overworld, I started looking around and found a gestural beach. These are little mini-games you can complete to get clothes for party members. This one was a surprisingly difficult parkour challenge that took me way too long, but I ended up finishing it for a new bathing suit. I also found the hidden gestural arena nearby, where I could fight 4 different contestants. Matthew the Colossus wasn't too bad, Bertrand Big Hands was a bit more difficult but doable, and then Dominique Giant Feet was where I hit a wall. I could not beat this guy, so I just left for now. The red trees that Noko had talked about led me to the ancient sanctuary. Here, the Gestrals didn't care at all that my group was made up of humans and not Nevrons, and sent their massive sentry guards after me. These things are so annoying because when they die, they just explode into the entire team with a super hard to dodge final attack. By defeating this sentry guard, the Gestral inside flew out and realizes that Noko had sent us. He tries to persuade Gustav to hand over his cool mechanical arm in order for him to bring us to the Gestral Sanctuary, but Mael convinces him to just lead us there and let Gustav keep his arm that he needs for combat. This hellish area was filled with exploding Gestral sentries, but I finally made it to the end. Here, the little Gestral gets excited, saying they can finally test out the ultimate defensive weapon. The ultimate Sakapate. This one has fucking cannons on its shield. And after some trouble, I finally defeated it, and the little Gestral said Golgra, the village chief, was right ahead. This granted me with a new achievement, and I headed into the Gestral Sanctuary. Inside was another fighting arena, where Bertrand Big Hands and the rest of those goobers from the other arena made another appearance. By defeating all of them, which my levels from the last area helped with massively, I was told I'd now be fighting a mysterious challenger. That person ends up being Sael, another member of the expedition who woke up here in the village. Even though we got reacquainted, the Gestrals made me fight her, and afterwards CL joined the squad. I now got a tutorial battle with her. CL's main skill is generating foretell. She can apply and then consume the foretell to increase her damage to a target, and by applying it, she gets sun charges, and by consuming it, she gets moon charges. If she has sun and moon charges at the start of a turn, she enters Twilight. In this mode, she does more damage, can apply more foretell, and increases the effectiveness of her abilities. After the fight, I was finally able to meet Golgra, the village chief. I made the mistake of challenging Golgra to a fight, and got fucking one-shot. I gave up on that, and Golgra told my squad to go find someone named Eskie, who had a nest east of the village. Golgra also shared the password to open the nest, which could apparently be unlocked by shouting, "Get out of my way!" With that, I was done with the village and earned another achievement. Back at the camp, Mael started tweaking again, with time freezing and her entering another nightmare. Inside, she sees a mysterious masked woman with a scarred face. Accompanying her is none other than the old man from the beach, who tells Mael that she should never have come, as she's gonna make everything worse. He tells her to go home and let her friends die to the Gommage in peace, and then the nightmare ends. The gang comforts her, and I can now head to Eskie's nest. Here, we shout the password that Golgra shared, and Gustav just looks dumb as fuck because the Gestral guarding the door says there wasn't even a password to begin with. Inside, I finally met Eskie, a massive creature with a sun mask on his face. He says hi to CL, saying he's seen her before, and calls her his swimming friend. She's lost and says she doesn't like to swim, and has never even met Eskie. We'll learn what that means way later, but the gang needs Eskie's help to swim across the ocean to the Paintress's monument. He tells them to first fight Francois, who apparently stole one of his rocks? Francois is right next door, and he's literally just a rock turtle thing. He, of course, challenges them to a fight for the rock, and after winning, I received the rock as a reward. Bringing this back to Eskie unlocked a new ability, and after promising to help him find more of his rocks, I gained the ability to use Eskie to traverse the overworld. This granted 2 more achievements. Back at camp, Mael has another nightmare, where we see the masked girl and the old man once again. For once, it's peaceful, and they just watch Mael sleep. My next location I had to hit was the Stone Wave Cliffs. Here, we see the remnants of another expedition, one that apparently used a Ferris wheel type thing to traverse the ocean and crashed here. A massive creature shows up to kill us, but Eskie speed blitzes it and instantly takes it down. He's strong, but apparently just lazy. I traversed through this location, which was insanely long and swarming with enemies harder than anything I had fought yet, but at the end, I finally reached the boss, the Lamp Master. This thing has some crazy attacks and uses the lamps flying around him to get an extra attack each turn. You can either break them, wasting AP on the free aim shots, or keep them up and use the lamps attacks to get counterattacks with your squad. I took a shit ton of damage to them, but finally took the Lamp Master down. Then, a cutscene played, which is never a good sign. The Lamp Master fell into the water, and Mael says that was easier than expected. She jinxed it, and the Lamp Master returns for a second phase. This one was way harder, with it instantly stunning Lune, but I was able to take this one down too after figuring out that its lamps blink in a certain pattern, which stuns the Lamp Master if they're shot in that order. Then, another cutscene played, and huge warning for spoilers if you're still watching. Shit gets serious here. The Lamp Master drops a new rock for Eskie, who flies up to eat it and gains the ability to swim. The gang starts hopping down onto his back in the water, but Mael and Gustav stay at the top, sightseeing for a moment. This is a dumbass idea because we hear a cane tapping, walking towards the duo. The old man is back, and as the duo continue to joke about rocks, Gustav takes a shot right through the stomach. Mael is sprayed with his blood, and Gustav begs her to run, but the old man traps her in place. Here, Gustav goes back on his promise. Earlier, he told Mael he'd run if they encountered this man again, but he can't leave the girl that he's taken care of like his daughter for so many years. Gustav then turns, squaring up with the man. The battle's a bit one-sided. None of his attacks do anything to this dude's health bar. After you use a full overcharge blast, the battle ends, and Gustav's arm literally just falls off. He's drenched in blood, and we see the old man is completely uninjured, even clearing Gustav's blood off of him in a single camera angle switch. Gustav doesn't move though, protecting Mael to the end, and rushes forward, the old man impaling him with a sword made of light. Gustav is done for, and the man moves to kill Mael, pushing her out of her body. She's in one of the nightmares again, a man's voice telling his sweet child that they were supposed to stay home. We don't know what this means, but Mael snaps back into reality, and the old man shares that they both just want what is best for their families. He goes to kill her, but his attack is blocked. A new man shows up, the one from Mael's first dream. The new man tells the old man that this isn't his family, but she is, pointing at the scarred girl with the mask who watches from above. The new man tells Mael to go join her friends, claiming he'll handle this situation. The old man just leaves, and we head back to camp. Mael is distraught because Gustav genuinely died, and as everyone comforts each other, the new man appears. He hands over Gustav's arm and shares the best route for the gang to reach the monolith. He also shares that he's an expeditioner, part of Expedition Zero, the very first one. Apparently, some of them stopped aging, and the old man, named Renoir, was also a part of that expedition. The new man says he'll join the gang and introduces himself as Verso. A new achievement is granted. I now had the ability to run around as Verso, and I realized that I can talk to all the members of the team, including Eskie, to increase their relationship level, which is very important later. Now, Verso's combat revolves around his perfection rank. If you've played Devil May Cry, it works the same. Landing hits raises it, starting at D and going to S. Reaching rank S granted me a new achievement. The higher the rank, the better his abilities and the stronger he hits. But take any damage and his rank is lowered. With my new party ready, I headed over to the next major location, the Forgotten Battlefield. Here, piles of expeditioner corpses line every inch of the sand, and Mael asks if they can take a break to bury Gustav. Nobody else wants to because it'll delay their trip, but Verso comes to the rescue and says there's a nice tranquil field on the way. A new enemy appears, and Verso teaches everyone something new. If an enemy does an attack that makes the screen all grayscale, it's called a gradient attack. The only method to avoid it is a gradient counter, a different key to parry than the normal ones. With this, we're now ready for this new area. I progressed through it nearly to the place we would bury Gustav, and suddenly a massive enemy appeared and knocked everyone into a chasm below. The team, all landing together, prepares to fight this new boss, the Dueliste. This thing had a ton of health, but since it took so long, I was able to generate 4 stains with Lune and consume all of them in one turn with a massive attack. This unlocked a new achievement. The Dueliste, of course, whipped up a second phase that absolutely fucking obliterated me, mixing gradient attacks in with its normal ones, but I was finally able to take it down. This unlocked a Peeko, Combo Attack 1, where my base attack would have an additional hit. This is a huge upgrade and one I used for most of the remaining game. With the boss defeated, we can now bury Gustav, or what was left of him, I guess, in a graveyard that Verso shares has been used to bury countless expeditioners. After some grieving and past this field was the end of the area, granting me another achievement. The gang camps for the night, and Verso shares that to defeat the Paintress, they must first defeat her heart. He doesn't even know what this heart looks like, but knows it's in the center of Old Lumiere. This was apparently part of Lumiere before the fracture, which split the continent up and moved part of it away, which is now called Old Lumiere. Verso shares that he's traveled with other expeditions before, and reached Old Lumiere with the 58th, and then they were all erased by Renoir. To make it through this dangerous area, he tells the group they must recruit an old friend of his at a place called Minoko Station. I also found out here that in a hidden corner of the camp, there was a gestrel named Sastro. Around the overworld, there were 9 hidden gestrels, and finding all of them was another achievement. I'd accidentally already found 2. I left that for now and headed over to Minoko Station. Here, I encountered the person the station was named after, Minoko. Defeating him in a duel convinced him to join the party, giving me an achievement, and he kindly taught my team gradient attacks. Every time someone uses AP to cast a skill, it fills a little gauge at the bottom of the screen. Once it's filled, the gradient charges can be used to cast way stronger attacks than normal. The big ice creature I fought to try this new ability out revealed Minoko's ability. He collects Nevron feet, and for every new enemy he kills, he unlocks a new attack. With that, our new team, with the little gestrel Noko appearing to tag along as well, was complete, and the group headed for Old Lumiere, granting me yet another achievement. I got to fight with Minoko on my way, and learned that his abilities also depend on this bestial wheel. Depending on where the pointer is, it'll boost different types of attacks. He is easily my favorite character to play with, and he hits hard. I also got sidetracked doing another Gestural Beach minigame, which was basically a clone of Only Up, if you know that game. Climbing to the top took forever, but I finally made it and got a new bathing suit from Minoko. Nearby was a weird maze location that gave me some wooden planks I could give to a friendly Nevron. Doing all these friendly Nevron quests would also grant me an achievement at some point. I finally arrived at Old Lumiere, where a building blocked our path. Minoko used his skill to transform into the ice creature I had defeated and busted the building down, but he was so strong that he blew away every member of my team. Minoko, Lune, and Ciel ended up together, and following their path led to an expedition journal that apparently contained some secret about Verso. They realized that he's likely with Mael right now, so they rushed to help. I then got to play as Mael, who was with Verso and Noko. After a battle, Mael says they actually make a pretty good team, and then realizes Verso is nowhere to be found. I now could only play as Mael, and followed the path down to a big-ass mansion. Through the door was a woman that looked exactly like the curator who had upgraded my gear, and Verso suddenly appears again. He says we shouldn't have opened the door and rushes to close it, but is blasted away by none other than Renoir. The two argue, and then it's revealed that Verso is Renoir's son. Then the rest of the gang appears, and they apparently learned the same thing from the expedition journal they found. The argument is saved for later though, because now I gotta fight Renoir himself. With my new gradient parry, I can now actually put up a fight, but he had a dubious attack. The attack itself can be gradient countered, but the timing is super weird and delayed, and if I don't counter it, he genuinely evaporates a member of my party. This is also where I'll mention that the single key that's bugged out in this game is the W key, which I need for gradient parries. I figured it out eventually, but he evaporated my team over and over. until I realized clicking W once just makes my mouse disappear off the screen, and I've actually got to click it twice to get the parry to activate. It's one of the very few bugs in this game, but made this battle take quite a bit longer than it needed to. I did finally take him down, and a cutscene started where he summoned a nuke from the sky and blasted the entire team. The only one who didn't survive was, sadly, my little goat Noko. Mael tries to kill Renoir because of this, but time was then frozen, and Mael talked with the mask girl for a bit, and we see her face completely covered in burn scars. Afterwards, Renoir and the mansion itself both disappear. I received another achievement, and the group headed back to camp. Here, Verso explains that he no longer considers Renoir his family, and the gang forgives him. He shares that they needed the mansion, since the Paintress's heart was inside, but Lune reveals that the expedition journal they found contained another way to defeat her, by using the Curator to create a weapon that could pierce the barrier around the Paintress's island. They could make it. But to do this, they had to find the Axons, 3 incredibly strong creatures around the monolith, and by killing 2 of them, they could obtain the materials they needed to forge the weapon. One of them is out of reach on a mountain, but the other 2 surround the Paintress's island, and one of them has already been weakened by previous expeditions. I headed to that one first, running into an enemy where I used Manoko's mask to cast 4 upgraded skills in a row, which granted me an achievement. Past that, at the first Axon Island, we see that the Axon itself is some kind of mask wielder. Another enemy, the Mask Keeper, told me that I first must fight 3 masks down different paths before I could fight the Axon itself. I fought the Anger Mask first, blowing it to smithereens, and this got some of my characters up to level 33 for another achievement. After taking down the rest of the masks, I was able to reach the first Axon, who actually wasn't too bad. Manoko was shredding this thing, and after taking it down, I thought I was done. But the Mask Keeper, who had greeted us earlier, appeared, turning off all the lights for maximum aura farming. He placed a mask on his face, and I quickly realized that this was the actual Axon. This motherfucker was way harder and kept stunning my damn team, and even after I took him down, it seemed like there'd be a second phase. But CL ripped off his mask, which not only defeated him, but was also the material I needed to bring to the Curator. This granted me an achievement, and as Mael went to hand over the first Axon material, the Curator turned into Renoir for a brief moment. Verso chalked it up to her just having a nightmare, and I moved to find the second Axon. On my way, I stopped by yet another Gestural Beach, a time trial, and this one gives you 0 time to make any mistakes. After way too much trial and error, I finally got a sub 39-second run and received another bathing suit. The second Axon location was a massive Coliseum-looking building with a singing woman in the center. I made my way down to her, fighting enemies en route, and I encountered a mini-boss with a ton of health. Here, I finally started really looking at CL's kit and realized I could apply 24 Tel while in her Twilight form, and then consume it all with 1 attack for huge damage. This not only shredded the mini-boss, but also granted me a new achievement. I finally made it down to the Axon, Cyrene. She had some insane multi-hit delayed attacks that were so hard to parry, and after losing my entire team multiple times to her charming a team member that would then kill everyone else, I finally took her down. With the second Axon piece, I headed back to the Curator, who was able to make a sick-looking weapon for Mael out of pure chroma, the Barrier Breaker. I now had the ability to fight the Paintress. At camp, Verso steps away, and we see him receive a letter from the girl with the scarred face. He takes off her mask, and it's revealed that this girl is his sister. Renoir shows up too, and says that by continuing down this path, Verso's gonna erase this whole team that we've grown to love. He says everything will be decided in the shadow of the monolith, where my next goal lies. I headed over for another achievement, and it was now time to face the Paintress. As I started attacking her, I realized something. My team was doing 0 damage. She wasn't even reacting to the hits. I assumed this was because I didn't have Mael on my team with her new sword, but after wailing on her for a bit, a cutscene began. Mael walked towards her, saying, "This isn't the Paintress." Time suddenly stops, and the Curator-looking woman who was in the mansion appears. She then proceeds to light my entire team on fire in this dream world, except for Verso and Manoko. Time resumes, and nobody's on fire anymore, and the mysterious woman disappears into a portal. We obviously follow her and end up inside the monolith. This is a pretty big area, and I encountered a mini-boss that I absolutely demolished. I was locked in and didn't take a single hit of damage the entire time, granting me a new achievement. I progressed through the area, realizing that it contained smaller versions of each major area in the game, so I was basically revisiting every enemy I had fought before. This is actually a super smart strategy for the developers to implement all of these enemies into battle now that I had Minoko. Instead of me having to backtrack to earlier areas to get new abilities for him, I could just fight these enemies and unlock all the skills I missed. After getting through all the old areas, I made it back to Minoko's station in this monolith area, where a shadow of a young lad told me to board his train. This took me to a new area, Tainted Lumiere. This area, filled with new enemies that were much harder than the ones I had fought previously, even contained a mini-boss with the same name as the game, Claire Obscure, which was pretty cool. I finally reached the peak of the monolith, inside which we see some sort of memory. Renoir with someone that we can assume is his wife, painting. Renoir then actually shows up, trying to convince Verso to side with him. He obviously disagrees, and a fight against him begins once more. I was getting walloped, but Minoko actually clutched up crazy, weakening him enough for my reserve team to come in and finish him off with some gradient attacks. I had finally mastered the gradient counters, so he wasn't able to evaporate my team this time. With him down and Mael ready to move in for the kill, he suddenly heals completely and continues to tell Verso that he's gonna destroy his family. He claims that this will be the second destruction of the Descendre family, so something must have happened before. But the curator suddenly appears. He says something weird here. This, pointing at Verso, is all you have left of your son. Destroying it won't bring your wife back. The curator moves to Mael, combining their power to fucking evaporate Renoir. If you're confused, don't worry, it's explained soon. But for now, the team heads through a glowing door. It's time to fight the Paintress. She calls Mael Alicia, asking why her face isn't burned. She then reaches towards Verso, telling him it's time to go home. He denies her then, saying Verso is dead, but she argues, saying she won't let them take her canvas. It's time to fight. And this fight took forever. But I finally took her down, and a massive creature spawned from behind her. Of course, it would be a two-phase fight. Verso yells, calling for Esquier, and hands over a rock that gives him the ability to fly. The gang flies into the air, and the second phase begins with them hovering on Esquier's back. This second phase was surprisingly easier, and the Paintress stands back up for another phase after being defeated. She's not attacking in this one though. Her moves actually protecting the Expeditioners as I wail on her. She finally goes down for the third time, granting me another achievement. And Verso has Mael evaporate her, the Paintress calling the name Alicia once more before she disappears. The painting on the monolith vanishes, and the team plants their expedition flag. And then they go home, happily ever after, for another achievement. Confused? Yeah, this is where shit goes off the rails. Verso opens the letter from the girl with the scars and the mask, and the entire story gets revealed as everybody except for Verso, Minoko, and Esquier in Lumiere get evaporated into nothingness. I'm gonna deep dive into the story for a minute here because it gets a bit jarring, but I absolutely loved it. Act 2 ends with Expedition 33 completing their mission and defeating the Paintress, Mael using the power the Curator taught her to erase Renoir and the Paintress. After everyone gets erased back home, the game transitions into a flashback, taking place inside the manor 16 years before Expedition 33's journey that we've been following for the whole game. Here, Alicia, who we know as Mael, is recovering from a fire that burned her face. She's summoned to the atelier by her sister Clea, and in this reality, we learn that the house is located in Paris, and Lumiere is simply a fictional city. In that same fire that scarred Alicia, Verso was killed. In the atelier, Alicia finds her parents, Renoir and Aline, in a trance, eyes painted blue in front of a giant canvas, swirling with color. Clea shares that the two are battling for dominance inside the canvas, and she apparently doesn't have time to continue trying to pull them out. She instead asks Alicia to enter the canvas to intervene. While in the real world, Clea hunts down the Writers, a rival guild to the Painters that was responsible for the fire that killed Verso. Alicia, not a skilled paintress herself, enters the canvas but is overwhelmed by her mother's chroma, which you can think of as paintress energy. The amount that you output is determinate on how skilled you are as a paintress. Instead of Alicia painting herself into the world as her own avatar, she instead is painted over by her mother, born as a character in this world that her mother controls. This suppresses her memories and identity as Alicia, and she is born as Mael, living 16 years in this painted world with no knowledge of herself as Alicia or her true family, and also forgets that she's a paintress. When Mael is gommaged with the rest of Lumiere after their victory over the paintress, who is actually her mother, she's spit out of the canvas back into her real body, with all of her memories of both her lives as both Alicia and Mael. This canvas world that I grew so attached to playing was simply an artificial world, a creation, which Verso painted as a child as a fantasy land for him and his sisters to play in. When Verso died in the fire, his mother Aline started spending too much time, years on end, inside the canvas. This was the only painting that Verso ever made, and it contained a piece of his soul. So Aline spent so much time inside it as a way to deal with her grief and not truly admit that her son was gone. Since she spent so much time inside, her body began to decay from malnourishment and overexposure to the chroma, so Renoir followed her inside to try and get her to leave and come back to the real world. The fracture that occurred, severing the continent of Lumiere inside, was due to the clash between the two, with Renoir trying to expel his wife, willing to destroy the canvas if necessary, and Aline fighting to preserve it and remain inside. Aline won this battle and trapped Renoir under the monolith, but bound herself on the top of it in order to maintain his prison below, creating a stalemate between the two. They could still interact with the world in limited fashions, which we'll learn about later in forms of their avatars. When we defeated Aline and removed her from the canvas, this freed Renoir to unleash his full power, which was the gommage we saw evaporate everyone inside. The people who remained inside were Verso, Alicia, Esquier, and the Gestrels, since they are all immortal and cannot actually die unless the canvas itself is destroyed. Alicia, now in the present time sent back because of the gommage Renoir triggered, knows Renoir plans to erase the painting so that her mother can never return to it. She re-enters the canvas, now painting an avatar of her own. She is now Mael and Alicia, with all her skills she obtained as Mael inside the game, and her paintress skills from outside. Having returned inside, Mael finds Verso and attempts to convince Renoir to save the painting. He declines, even though doing this will erase the last painting of his son, because he worries that both Aline and now his daughter Alicia will wither away and die, stuck inside this fake world. He tries to destroy Mael to send her back home once more, but she and Verso flee back to the continent with Esquier. She gets the hang of her paintress powers quickly and restores Lune and Ciel. Verso and Mael catch the other two up, and Verso reveals that he is actually a creation of his mother, a replacement made in this fake world to replace her dead son. Renoir is now free in this world though, controlling most of the chroma since he's the most talented painter inside, and has summoned his own Nevrons to defend himself. He's gathering power to destroy this entire world, and without chroma of her own, Mael can't paint an army to fight or revive the people of Lumiere. So her plan is to visit the dead expeditioners from across the continent, slowly collecting their chroma. We see her traveling with the rest of the gang, slowly collecting the chroma to create an army to fight Renoir. This now begins Act 3. I could just go fight Renoir, but we're going for all the achievements. It's time for some post-game content. The first of these quests is increasing my relationship with Esquier. If you get it high enough, you get to go obtain another rock from the old turtle guy for Esquier by trading with a little rock that Esquier made as a replacement. Obtaining this grants Esquier the ability to swim on the overworld to unlock more new areas, as well as a new achievement. I tried fighting some big overworld boss named Sprong at this point, which ended in disaster, so I left him for now. I ended up at a Gestrel beach, did some ridiculously hard climbing minigame, and I spent quite a while here. After completing it, I raised my relationship to higher levels with all of the other characters, unlocking some really neat new quests. Mael's side area is this super tall tower, and boy is this thing endless. For a post-game area, this place takes hours to climb, but the top has a really cool fight where Aline's creation, which is the Mael with the scars and the mask, fights one-on-one with the Mael we know. I'm not gonna lie, at this point I really didn't have Mael in my main squad because I thought she was ass, so I had to completely rework her build in order to fight this diabolical boss. It used all of Mael's moves, but I didn't use her for most of the game, so I didn't know them by heart. I was finally able to pick up on the patterns and won, and Mael goes to free this painted version of herself from this fake world she's been painted in. Verso begs her to stop, but it's too late. For him, this scarred girl is the closest thing to his sister that he knows, and Mael basically just killed her. This is a pretty polarizing moment. Verso knows it's for the best, but still resents Mael for doing it, killing this version of his sister. After this area, I headed to the Endless Tower, a back-to-back battle arena with, fittingly, 33 different fights. They scale up insanely high towards the latter half, but the first 15 or so fights allowed me to get to around level 60. I left for a while, getting sidetracked at another friendly Nevron quest where I had to parry the correct notes and let the bad ones hit me. It was a cool little minigame. I did another side area where only one person from my party could fight at a time, and I had to run through 5 total enemies, one for each character. Back at camp, I'd realized that if I talked with the different characters more, I could unlock new grading attacks for them, which would be needed later. Minoko's friendship was tied to a side quest where we headed to a river and revived a little gestural Noko that Renoir had killed with his nuclear bomb attack, and by doing all of this side stuff, I finally got Verso up to level 66 for another achievement. I now felt like I was high enough level to take on the massive monster on the map that had decimated my team earlier. Sprong. It still had a nauseating amount of health, but its attacks weren't too hard to learn, and I took it down thanks to some crazy damage from Mael and Minoko for another achievement. I then headed to an endgame area. What I mean by that is these enemies in this location called Renoir's Drafts were over-leveled even for me, so I left the area for now. I headed back to the Endless Tower for some more levels since I had gotten quite a bit stronger and made it about 85% of the way through before I started getting touched again. Nearby was a location called the Fountain where a friendly Nevron rewarded me for helping all the other friendly Nevrons and gave me 100 colors of Lumina. I could use these to add Lumina points to my characters, increasing their max peak dose, which was a massive help at increasing the amount of perks I could put on them. I was now really high level, so I started tackling the real endgame locations. One of these was the Flying Manor, where I had to go around and defeat 4 bosses before fighting the final boss. One of those 4 bosses was an upgraded version of the Lampmaster. This is what gave me my first perfect chroma catalyst, an upgrade item that allowed me to get 1 weapon to maximum level. A massive increase in damage. I used it on Minoko's weapon since he was my real heavy hitter, and it nearly doubled his damage output, and also granted another achievement. I then realized I was missing a super easy Mael achievement, one where I had to hit a marked enemy with a certain skill while she was in her virtuous stance. So I equipped a peak dose that made her free aim have a 20% chance to mark enemies, and headed into a mini-boss fight. I basically just had to gamble on her mark proccing, which took quite a while with the setup I needed, but I finally got it to activate and pop the ability for another achievement. Next up was the second and final overworld boss, like Sprong, the Serpent Fair. This one actually wasn't too bad, since my team was cruising through levels, and after figuring out its super destructive moves, I was able to take it down for yet another achievement. At this point, I had gotten to a level 6 relationship level with every character, and made it through each of their specific quest lines. Now, speaking to each one of them again granted me a level 7 relationship level, the maximum. This not only unlocked each person's level 3 gradient attacks, but also gave me 5 new achievements. I also got a really cool and pretty sad snippet of CL's story, where we learned that back in Lumiere, her husband died, and she then tried to drown herself. She woke up alive on the beach somehow, and we learned that Esquier was the one that saved her. This is why he said, "Hello again, my swimmer friend," when they first encountered each other. She also found out that she was pregnant, and the amount of time she spent underwater actually killed the baby, so CL carries an unbelievable amount of grief. These little character story tidbits were something I really loved. It's something you don't have to do, but it really gets you closer to these characters and really makes you understand their motivations. Soon thereafter, I encountered a Patank on the overworld. I haven't talked about these yet, but Patanks are kind of weird. They're laid out across different levels, and you have to chase them around into a sort of platform to hold them still. They're optional enemies and have all kinds of different mechanics to negate damage, but if you can kill them before they flee, you get really good rewards. Now, all of the ones I had found thus far were in levels. I had never seen one on the overworld before. So I chased this massive one into its platform and actually fucking decimated it. I got some good upgrade materials and a new Peeko, but more importantly, I got an achievement. Now I headed back to the Endless Tower, and since I had reached the maximum friendship with everyone, they now had access to their level 3 gradient attacks. These high health enemies in the tower were the perfect targets to build my gradient meter up to the maximum, and holy shit, I used Minoko's and it just dropped a massive bell from the heavens to do 500,000 damage. It also unlocked an achievement. I continued powering through the tower, and in one of the final battles, an enemy appeared. The final one I needed to unlock every single skill for Minoko, a creation. I had been hunting these enemies down, and this single one had evaded me. Until now. This triple up battle of absolutely insane enemies and bosses was cooking me, but I was committed to getting this ability. I kept fighting, learning their parry timings through trial and error, utilizing my new high-level gradient attacks. I kept dying though. These things had so much health, and every one of their attacks was weirdly hesitant and super hard to time the dodge right. I finally took one of them down, focusing my efforts on the Lamp Master next, since I had fought him before and knew more of his attacks. I pulled out my level 3 gradient with Minoko, dealing a critical hit for 1 million damage, and took him down with my next attack. The creation was the only enemy left, the one I needed for Minoko's new ability. After a long drawn-out battle, Minoko finished him off, receiving the final foot he needed. This granted me a new achievement. Now, all I had left of this area was the 33rd floor, the final floor. This put me up against a dubious duo, the Paintress and the Curator. Luckily, they shared a health bar, but unluckily, they both attacked separately. It definitely took me longer than I'd like to admit, since this health bar was massive, and I had to respec my characters and change weapons multiple times. But finally, with Minoko, my goat, I was able to deal enough damage to finally take them down. The Endless Tower was now complete, and with it, I received a new achievement. Next up was the Painting Workshop. Entrances to this area were placed around the map, and I had to go in each one and jump across painting frames to place different parts of the beast into a Lamp Master statue. This unlocked the final boss of this area, which, surprise, was another Lamp Master. Thanks to that horrendously long floor of the Endless Tower, I had mastered this guy's attacks, and without dying a single time, I took him down. Another achievement. I then had to backtrack a bit. Remember where I got that perfect chroma catalyst to max out my weapon level? The one where I had to fight different bosses to unlock the final boss? At the time, I tried that final boss, and I got fucking destroyed. But I was feeling confident in my skills now, so it was time to head back. This boss is actually a version of Clea, Verso and Mael's sister. She's a master paintress, so her whole spiel is summoning monsters from various different areas that I've fought and chaining them together into diabolical combos. If that wasn't enough, if any of the hits in the combos aren't parried, even if you don't take any damage and dodge instead, Clea heals for 500,000 health. So that basically negates any damage I'd be able to do in a turn. I had to rely on Minoko's heavy-hitting attacks and really make the most of my turns, doing as much damage as physically possible. This is because she has like 12 different combo attacks she can spawn in, and I was only confident in parrying like 3 of those. She kept healing when I'd miss a single shot, and I couldn't waste damage-dealing turns on reviving my dead teammates. This battle was testing me. I'd get her down to a fifth of her health bar, and then I'd mess up on one parry and everything would go to shit. Over time though, I started learning more parry timings, and I was locked in. I started parrying absolutely every attack, getting her down to 1 health, and then things started looking rough. Verso got hit, and she healed. But my goat Minoko blasted her with like 1,000,000 points worth of damage, finally taking her down. She's so strong because she's Clea's avatar in this world, but she doesn't want to be trapped in this world anymore, so she summons all her creations in order to kill herself and finally free her. She was now gone from this world, and I got a nice little achievement. Now, before I headed into the final endgame area, the hardest of them all, it was time for a little collecting. I spent genuinely almost 10 hours hunting through the game to finish a few different collectible-based achievements. I first found all the lost gestrels that I had to deliver back to camp, Achievement 1. And then, I was like, wait, don't need to collect yet. I can go try that super hard endgame area first. This was the area I had entered right when I started the endgame, and I basically got touched there. With how high level I was, Renoir's drafts was now only a mild challenge. The real challenge started at the end of this area. From Renoir's drafts, where I was, you can enter a portal. This leads to the abyss. The portal takes you to a walkway where your character literally fights against you trying to leave because the chroma is so strong. You have to fight to control your own character to access this area. This should have been a telling sign for me. If you make it to the end of the walkway though, you drop into this void area. In it is a diabolically placed expedition journal, one you assume you can just grab, but of course, it's not that easy. This man apparently solo fought an old Axon, the things that were such a threat to me in the early game. This man's name is Simon, an old friend of Verso's who joined Expedition Zero with him. He assumed Simon had just died, but apparently Clea had painted over him, trapping him forever in this void. Verso promises to free his old friend, but he's not getting freed anytime soon. Holy shit, this boss is absurd. Every combo is delayed. He has like 30,000 attacks in each combo and can easily two-shot any of my party members, which, mind you, have 15,000 health. His health bar is obnoxiously large, but with brute force and multiple revives, I finally took him down with Minoko. I even got XP at the end, which never happens if there's a two-phase boss. So I was relieved. This fight would follow the same rules as all the other ones. Right? Wrong! He falls, defeated, but Clea speaks to him. "My love," she says, "these foes are beneath you. You who have fought heaven and earth and subdued giants to find me, to free me from her grasp. Will you now fall to the likes of them? Your oath remains unfulfilled. Rise, your enemies await." This motherfucker isn't done yet. Now, I've played a lot of hard games in my day. I mean, I've got every achievement in Elden Ring. I love Souls-likes. I love stuff that gives me a good challenge. This second phase, no joke, is the most dubious, evil, preposterous fight I have ever gone up against in any game I've ever played. His health bar was a telling sign when my strongest attacks barely dented it. Then his turn started. You know those 30,000 move combos I mentioned from the first phase? They're the same now, but every single strike has a second sword swing following instantly behind it. I was like, this might be a little harder than I thought. His turn came up again, and I actually dodged his short combo. I've got this. Then his powerful combo came up, and Verso went down. Then he proceeded to suck out all but one of Minoko's 13,000 health with an undodgeable attack, and then, no joke, erased Verso from the canvas. If someone dies in this battle, they just disappear. You can't use them anymore. And he's constantly draining everyone to 1 health. So basically, you get hit, you're donezo. Minoko went down, the combo continuing even into his dead corpse. But I had an auto revive perk, and then I got a prompt. Simon attacks at light speed. And light speed it was. This attack even killed Mael. It just swung across the entire team. I kept trying to revive my characters, but holy shit, I was getting my booty touched. This dude is unfathomably insane, so I let him be for now. I headed back to the overworld, and next up was finishing all of the friendly Nevron quests. I had done most of these accidentally in passing, but I had to go spend 200,000 chroma, the money I had acquired throughout the game, to finish the last one to unlock the achievement. Next on my list were all the Gestrel Beach minigames. I had also done most of these by accident, all except for one, of course. The hardest one. Beach volleyball. You've got to stand on a platform and click F to counter the flaming Gestrels that are being thrown at you and launch them back at your enemy's raft. There's 3 difficulties, and I picked up on the patterns pretty quick, so I got through the first 2 pretty quickly. And then I did the hardest difficulty. The Gestrels are launched at you at nuclear speeds, and you are so zoomed out compared to the other ones. This wasn't even the worst part. Playing this on mouse and keyboard is, no joke, impossible. You have to angle yourself towards the incoming Gestrels, and the non-360 degree keyboard rotation was abysmal. I could not rotate fast enough to hit these things. I'm not exaggerating this either. I actually had to plug in a controller to get the movement to work right, and with that, I was still struggling. After 2 hours of trying this stupid-ass minigame, I finally got it. I received another bathing suit, which I didn't care about, but also got an achievement, which I did care about. I did some level grinding for a bit since an achievement is tied to being level 99, and then headed back to my good pal Simon. And 5 hours later, I was still getting touched. I was actually losing my mind. I felt like I was back fighting Prime Radon, and I could not do it. So back to exploring. I went around the map trying to find all the expedition journals, save for the one Simon was guarding, while I hunted for new weapons and Peekos to make his fight viable. While I did this, I also grabbed all the music discs, which are collectibles you can find across the map, 33 to be exact, that you can use to play different soundtrack songs at the camp. The issue was, I technically missed one. There's a single record out of the 33 that's missable. Apparently, in between fighting Axon 1 and Axon 2, you have to go to the camp, interact with the campfire, and click the prompt that says, check on the camp members. I did this a couple times throughout the game, but not at that specific point, and I guess if you don't do it right there, you miss the music disc that you could have gotten, and if you don't get it there, you can't get the music disc for the rest of the game. I was far past this area at this point, so technically I didn't get every achievement in the game, because I missed one music disc. But bear with me, I had to get this video out. I didn't want to have to go through New Game Plus and play 35 more hours and delay the video by 3 more weeks. We'll mark it as completed for now, and this is where shit started going south. The only thing I had left to do was to defeat Simon and collect the final expedition journal for the 2 achievements I needed. But Simon, funny enough, in his second phase, if you somehow make it to the end, evaporates your entire team, even if they're alive. So you then have to send in your backup team. Your main team's 3 people. You've got 2 people on your bench at all times. So those 2 bench warmers have to be sent in and fight his 3rd phase. That means the 3rd phase would be easier, right? Also wrong! Those 30,000 attacks in every combo that now had a backup swing behind them, now had 2 backup swings behind them. I don't know how any human being could actually beat this fight. I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't do it. I was playing this game like 10 hours a day, real gooner shit. And I had to go see my girlfriend and actually do stuff in real life. So I did it. I spent another 10 hours going around the map, finding a bunch of different Peekos that would stack my L to do enough damage to take Simon out in his 2nd phase before he wiped the team. When you get him to 10% health or so in that 2nd phase, that's when he does the team wipe. But if you can kit out one character enough to do so much damage, then instead of reducing him to 10%, it just nukes his whole health bar, you bypass the team wipe and basically just instantly defeat him. So I ran around and kept running around, visiting every single old area to find all the Peekos I missed to set up this strategy, and leveled up my characters to max as well for another achievement. The strategy goes like this. You need Monoko, CL, and Myel. CL has an insta-death Peekos that buffs up Myel because she has Peekos that buff her up on a teammate dying. Myel then goes 2nd because of the speed Peekos I had equipped. She has a weapon that makes her automatically start the battle in Virtuous stance. She then hits a dubious attack to one-shot the 1st phase. Next it gets a little complicated. Myel goes, buffing herself up with an ability that brings her down to 1 health. It's a Monoko's turn, and he uses an ability to fill and break Simon's break meter, stunning him for a turn. Then CL buffs up Myel with an ability, making her next attack deal double damage. She gets a double turn, then uses another ability to make Myel go instantly. Myel then uses an insanely stacked max power attack to deal 140 million damage. Is it cheese? Yes. Is it cheating? Not really. Do I feel bad? Yes. I'll go back and do it in New Game Plus. I just needed to get the video out and actually leave my room. Bear with me, please. My apologies. But with the defeat of Simon and the new expedition journal that was next to him, I now had 2 new achievements. It was finally time to head back to Lumiere and confront Renoir once and for all. This is a beautiful culmination of the story. Myel, or Alicia as her father calls her, wants to remain in this canvas. This life is a sort of escapism. She's not scarred, she has friends, and her brother is still alive here. Renoir, on the other hand, wants her to return to normal life. He's lost his son already, and his wife has spent most of the past years inside this canvas. He wants his family back. Erasing this last piece of his son's soul pains him, but he says he must do it to save the rest of his family. The group steps to Myel's defense, saying Renoir can't dictate her actions, and it erupts into a fight between the 2 sides, escapism versus reality. Of course, we must defeat Renoir one last time. Renoir then transforms, revealing something. Remember when I said that Renoir and his wife, who were trapped on top and below the monolith, could interact with the world through their avatars almost? Renoir reveals here that his avatar the whole time has been the curator. That's how he interacted while he was trapped under the monolith. This fight actually made me super sad, not because of the story or the context, but because I was level 90 fucking 9. This is the end of the story, and I finished all the end game content first, because you have to. So I was insanely over-leveled for this fight, which wouldn't normally be an issue. It was just easy. But the backing soundtrack for this fight might be one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard in my life. I genuinely need to inject it into my body so I can listen to it 24/7. The entire time I've been recording this and writing this script, that's the only song I've been listening to. This whole game was filled with some of the most amazing music I've ever heard in a game ever. But this song specifically gave me chills the entire time I was listening to it. So, because of my high level, I could now blast through Renoir really quick, which meant I couldn't listen to the song as long as I would have liked to. So, I destroyed him, and after his first phase, Renoir called in one of the Axons to fully heal him, but then a portal opened. Aline returns to the canvas, and Renoir demands she leave since any more exposure to any canvas will kill her. She summons the Paintress to fight this Axon, and our fight against Renoir resumes. I damn near instantly killed the second phase too, but then Renoir summons the canvas itself into the battlefield, leaving and re-entering to summon more power, but Mael jumps up for the finishing blow. The Axon falls as well, and Renoir is finally defeated. He shares that his wife Aline was actually the one who taught him how to paint, showing him that every minute they spend in the canvases they create takes a toll on their real bodies. But now, the roles are reversed. He spent 67 years trapped under the monolith in this world, but he states that he endured it for his family, opening a portal to show his wife, severely sick from the time she spent in this world. He wants to fix his family, but Mael claims that these people in this canvas are her family. She tells Renoir that she'll only stay in this world a while longer, and then she'll return to real life. But Renoir knows this is a lie. Even so, he yields to his daughter, saying he'll be waiting for her outside. Verso then enters the portal that shows his injured mother, and inside, we see the heart of this canvas, a little boy painting this world. This is the fragment of Verso's soul that remains in the canvas, him as a young boy, painting this world for his sisters and him to play inside. The Verso we know understands that this fragment of himself is tired of painting this world, trapped in this eternal suffering, and he tells Mael to leave this world, since he also realized she was lying about ever leaving the canvas. She plans to die in here. This is now a battle between the two siblings. Verso canvas version wanting to free the fragment of his soul trapped here eternally to paint, and Mael not wanting him to destroy this canvas. I'm then presented with a choice. Who do I want to side with? I ended up going with Verso here, since his will to free himself and his family from this canvas kinda made the most sense, and with him, I defeated Mael. She begs this last fragment of her brother to not leave her again, and her avatar is eliminated, returning her to the outside world. Verso stands, hugging Eskia and Monoko, his dearest friends, as they evaporate into dust. The rest of my team also turns to dust, Ciel and Lune disappearing. With that, Verso takes this small child, a fragment of his own soul, and allows him to finally be free, walking him away from the canvas, the two disappearing together. The canvas is now destroyed. In the epilogue, we see Verso and Mael's family in the real world, all freed from the canvas, mourning over Verso's grave. Mael even holds a little doll version of Eskia. She looks up, seeing spiritual versions of her friends vanish in front of her as she begins this new life in the outside world. The game is now over, and I'm granted the final achievement. This game was beyond incredible. The story, the music, the characters, the combat, it was all perfect, in my opinion. As I played through, basically only playing this game for a week straight, I really fell in love with everything this game has to offer. And I'm not gonna lie, it hit the top of my list. I think this is officially my favorite game that I've ever played. I'm incredibly excited to see what this studio comes up with next, and this being their first project with a very small team of developers respective to like other AAA companies, I'm incredibly excited to see what they whip up. There's also a vinyl soundtrack in the works, And you know I'm snagging that as soon as it comes out. But with that, I've now completed the game. I plan to go back and play New Game Plus and not only get the one music disc that I missed, but also see if I missed anything, because I was really engrossed in the story and I want to learn more. But for now, this is how I got every single achievement in Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Thank you all very much for watching.